Thank you very much, Rick. And good morning, everybody. The conditions for good business demand stability from politicians and government, secure property rights, transparent taxation, and predictable regulation. Exciting things happen when the environment is serene. Investment is ever more possible when returns are more clearly foreseeable. Yet real progress, big value, is rarely arrived at by baby steps. Disruptive thinking, technologies and insights that break new ground are inherently risky. The big research that has created extraordinary departures in technologies and our economies, from the internet to the iPod, happen in our great university sectors. We all know the central challenge we face is taking that value into business. Effective knowledge exchange strengthens business and our HE sector with learning in both directions. The UK has a competitive edge as a direct result of the formation of the Arts and Humanities Research Council, the envy of colleagues around the world. They understand that our arts and humanities research plays a critical part of developing knowledge which impacts on the creative and cultural infrastructure of the UK, benefiting the economy, directly and indirectly, from tourism to manufacturing. Research from the Brighton Fuse project has confirmed what many of us working at the interface of business and academia already knew, that arts and humanities graduates are core to most of our creative businesses. The creativity, intellectual insight, and analytical skills of an outstanding arts and humanities education is key to the UK's competitive advantage. Our future economy is less predicated on a free market than on a market with freedoms. Creative and insightful businesses need creative and insightful minds. That is what the Arts and Humanities Education and Research Programme in Britain produces. The kind of model is, of course, challenging. The kind of modern industrial policy that the current government is pursuing understands the KE imperative. The catapult centres, and closer to my own home, Scotland's innovation centres, are all about building productive capacity in key sectors. Our work at Design in Action, one of the 4 UK knowledge exchange hubs, is proving the need and applicability for skills and disciplines to cut across silos to deliver interdisciplinary solutions for today's complexity. Design is key in offering both the iterative and the disruptive elements of productive innovation. A decade ago, Danish colleagues presented the Design Ladder that showed businesses how investing in design could allow them to make strategic step changes in their performance. The Design Council has worked tirelessly to demonstrate the value of design to business. Design in Action is working with design experts such as Sebastian Conran in demonstrating those benefits to profitability, creativity, and sustainability, using design as a strategy for business, delivering innovation to a growing network of over 500 SMEs. Sebastian chairs Design in Action Steering Group. He puts into practice design principles, challenging the project team on content and delivery, and ensuring the highest standards are delivered to business, a context within which he has thrived. Sebastian is ever curious. The what-if philosophy leads him to explore design both within the context of his business and as a researcher with higher education, where he's currently designer in residence at the University of Sheffield. He has been working alongside academics, helping them turn their ideas and research into real-world solutions and applications. I would like to welcome Sebastian Conran to discuss the role of design as a distinctive set of actions that lead to a successful commercial outcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sebastian Conran.
Thank you very much for coming. I don't know if many of you speak Japanese in here, but this is a Japanese word. It's pronounced Conran, and it means chaos and confusion. When I was a child, I wanted to be an inventor, an engineer. and I studied maths, physics and chemistry at school and got my A-levels in that. And then I intended to go to Bristol, and my father convinced me to go to the Central School of Art and Design. Here I am, 19 years old and much thinner than I am today. And while I was there, I got involved with designing record sleeves and posters and things for The Clash and other groups. So you could almost say I studied industrial design engineering but graduated in rock and roll. But it was a real revelation to me, having come from a school where I'd been doing maths, physics and chemistry, and I didn't have any arts, in my... and then to go to the Central and discover art history. And I also met Eduardo Palozzi, who was very influential on me and taught me to see things in a different way. But I was particularly taken by this Richard Hamilton collage, which actually was created the year I was born, and it's called What Makes This Home So Different, So Appealing. So different and appealing, D and A. So whenever I'm designing something, I'm thinking, what is going to make it different? What is going to give it appeal? Why would someone want to buy what I'm designing? The other thing that, The other thing that inspired me was sculpture, and because it seemed to be the art of form and creating form, whereas industrial design, it was all form follows function. And it just seemed all a bit too predictable. And so I found it very interesting looking at the works of Anish Kapoor and Brancusi and seeing how those sorts of forms can be referenced for my own work. And here's a few examples. And form doesn't always follow... Anyway. I was asked here to create a range of products which reflected someone's brand personality. And part of that was a sort of Goldilocks appeal. These cups, which almost feel, they bring out the inner child. And I think it's very important to create a playfulness in the products that you're designing. So they're not so serious, but they appeal to the inner child. But at the same time, bring in ideas which are involve functional innovation. And functional innovation is sort of my byword. And here's a really simple example. And it's a jug which measures as you pour. So you don't have to keep on doing that to see how much is left in there, because you can do it. It couldn't be simpler once you've seen it. We created 100 products. We showed John Lewis, this is how you should display a collection. If you display a collection all together, people will buy into it and collect it. If you show it in its different categories, it gets completely lost. And recently I've been working with Belling, and based in Liverpool, and it's fantastic getting a German Design Award in their own territory, cookers, by doing it in a British way rather than doing it in a sort of rather Germanic, what I call a sort of silent witness look. Sorry, I meant laboratory look, And it's this attention to detail and getting these little details right that make all the difference. And here we were commissioned by Nissan to redesign the interior of their Cube, and it was an exercise in deplastification. And when I say deplastification, we had to use polymers, but polymers don't have to feel plasticky. You know, what things feel like, the way they feel to the touch. And when I showed you those knobs on the Belling cooker, I insisted that they were made out of solid die-cast zinc because you can tell the difference. And it was like, oh, but, you know, who's going to notice? Everybody notices. And working on small interiors, commissioned to work with Yotel on an idea that was originally conceived by Paul Priestman, which is how do you make a very small space feel aspirational? And that was something that we had worked on when we were designing the last iteration of the Concorde. And here, this is a piece of sculpture that I created from a bit of sort of Concorde wreckage. You know, not many pieces of sculpture have travelled 55 million miles at Mach 2, but here's one. And I call it the Concorde of science and culture, because I believe that the job of designers is to transform science into culture, knowledge into experience. And here's some stylish, simple to use phones which have got buttons on. And technology is moving so fast that, you know, one moment this is, right, the latest thing you can get. And now I haven't used a phone with a button for 3 years or something. But across the world, more people have phones than have access to the electricity grid. So what we've designed here is a lighting system that turns a photovoltaic or windmill and transforms it into useful voltage so that people can see at night and study. And you can pay for this in 6 months' worth of kerosene for your lamp, or you can charge your mobile phone with it as well. So other thoughts about enhancing experience of later life. I mean, you know, I'm going to be 80 in 20 years. Well, 22 years. But, and, you know, who is going to be looking after me then? I don't want my children, or the life of a carer is a difficult one. It's difficult for the older person, and it's also difficult for the carer, because you never get the same carer. You don't get the chance, unless you're very lucky indeed and wealthy, to build up a relationship with a carer. So issues like intimate hygiene and stuff, you've got, I mean, I leave it to you to imagine it. But it's the idea of actually having a machine to do it is actually more preferable than to have a different person every day. It's less intrusive. So we're starting off looking at the Internet of Things, and we've taken a very simple object, which is a little alarm button. Yep. And we've separated it out into a wrist strap and a clip, because the clip uses up a lot of energy, and the wrist strap you only have to charge once a month. So you can keep it on in the shower, you can keep it on at night, and it's the issue where you actually need it the most. It's also possible to build in sort of health monitoring devices into it. So the sensors which can tell blood oxygen levels, even glucose levels, so we're not quite there yet with the technology. And the other thing is that this thing needs to look like we'd all want to have one. Why should things for the pieces designed for the elderly look like they're designed in a garage somewhere? And they should have the same design qualities as this Apple iPhone I'm using. So we do a lot of studying into how things are going to be used, the user experience. It's all part of designing. It's not just, oh, I just want to make this look nicer. It's how do we make it so the experience of using it is better. And then we're looking into what the smart homes of the future might look like. How do we split up the ideal home? Because most homes are designed for people that can climb stairs, and they're designed more about, you know, getting the most out of the space from the point of view of a housing developer. We will need devices which can help our experience of the home, and these devices will need to be able to fold up, go in the boot of the car, and they will probably work on cloud sourcing. And there will be a very important aspect of them will be their ability to communicate with each other. Because having one big robot, as it were, I promise not to use that word, mobile intelligent appliance that can lift you out of bed, it needs to be a huge thing. But if you have two, they can be the size of 12-year-old children, and they can have the sort of strength of a 12-year-old child. But the great thing about robots is that they are entirely synchronized in a way that a football team isn't, especially Arsenal. Right. So this is quite a long way away. So what we're trying to do to begin with is to design things that are robotic, that you wouldn't expect to be robotic. Because if I design a humanoid robot that can't even make a cup of tea, it's not very impressive. But if I design you a table that can whiz around the place, it knows where you are, it can adjust your height, and it can be used in a variety of different ways. It's magic, you know. So instead of trying to develop, I'm just trying to say, take something that's dumb and make it magic rather than the other way around. Right, now, you know, in order for me to be, I mean, they mention patents and IP, and it always gets on my goat, you know, when I see how much a client will spend on designing something compared to how much they'll spend on protecting it, usually about 5 times as much. Here's an example. This is a toddler cup, which was designed for quite a prestigious London-based design company for my client, Mandy Haberman, who had invented a special spout. And it leaked, not from the spout, but from around the rim. And I'd seen this, and because I'd been head of design at Mothercare in a previous life, I said, I could design it much better. And we did, and they made 25 million of them in Wales. You know, you can make a product from plastics like this in Wales. And what we'd done is we had actually used a less expensive plastic because I'd remembered that Earl Tupper's patent was based on using polypropylene with polyethylene. Anyway, it's done very well, and I'm delighted for Mandy. But we charged her £8,000 to design it in 1978. She probably paid about £30,000 for the patent lawyers to get a worldwide patent. No problem with that. But to protect that patent, when a nefarious company decided to knock it off, cost her £300,000. And it just doesn't seem to add up to me, but there we are. And so coming back to what you were saying, I think patent law really needs to be looked at. Another issue is we designed this product at about the same time as the other one, and it was, you know, I was walking along Chesil Beach and I'd been asked to design a set of kitchen scales, and I thought, oh yes, well, I'll use pebbles. And it sold incredibly well. And John Lewis used it in all their advertising and everything. And then one day John Lewis said, the buyer at John Lewis said to me, she said, why does it sell so well? Brilliant design. But I stood in the store and watched, and it was people would approach the scales, they'd pick up the weights, and you could see as soon as they rolled the weights around in their hands, a little buy me switch would go off in their head. And it's how do we create that? And, you know, this is a tool bag, and it sells for £1,600 in Connolly leather, and it's exquisitely made. Now, if I told you it was £1,600 in B&Q, you would, it would be a joke. But if I told you it was £1,600 in Hermes, where they sell £5,000 handbags, it would seem, rather a good deal. So it is all about, the value tier that you put things in and the power of the brand and the quality of the manufacturer and things. Anyway, so talking about value, what I try and do with design is create value. And in its simplest form, you can say, well, value is desire divided by sacrifice, or design, brand design and quality divided by cost. And so if I go through that, when I'm talking about value, in this case, I'm not talking about Tesco's value. I'm talking about a perception of fair exchange. I'm not talking about how much I value Diane's friendship or Georgina's friendship. I'm talking about how much I would swap my sacrifice in order to have things. And when we look at this and we deconstruct it, when we're talking about the brand, we're talking about the reputation and what we've heard about things, how much effort goes into the marketing of these things, our experience of buying other things with the same brand, our perception of their integrity, where they get things made and things like that. And then when we look at design, there's two aspects of design. There's the emotional aspect of design and the rational aspect of design. And, it's almost like the emotional aspect of the design is the inner animal brain, and the rational aspect of design is the sapient thinking brain. And the emotional side, when we're designing, we're really creating personalities. We're trying to get things that will appeal to people on an emotional level. We're thinking about fashion. We're talking about how their senses perceive things, what they smell like, how they feel to touch, and their scarcity and their coolness, and the story behind them, the narrative. And then when we're talking about the rational side, we're talking about functional innovation, a jug that measures as you pour, or a grater that folds up, or things like that. We're talking about performance, because when you buy a car, you're not just buying it because it looks nice, you're buying it because it does X miles to the gallon, or can do 0 to 60 in a zillionth of a second, or whatever it is. We're also looking at usability and how easy things are to use and how useful they are, and what we call the functional innovation aspect. And so you get the emotional side of design is strongly associated with the brand aspect, and then you get the rational side of design strongly associated with quality. And when I'm talking about quality, I'm talking about manufacturing quality. Because if I really, really understand how things are made or how things could be made, I can design them so they're straightforward to make. Johnny Ives decided that he wanted to have an anodized aluminium finish on his products. So you can't anodize die-cast aluminium. You can only anodize aluminium which is cut from the billet. So because of the finish he wanted, he went through an extraordinarily difficult manufacturing process. But that finish is incredibly tough, incredibly durable, and they think it's worthwhile. Also, if I can design things so that they're simple to make, I can design them so that they are less expensive to make. I can design failure out, and I can design integrity in. And this also covers service. And you've got to see service as just as important as manufacturing. The way you run a company, the way you react to your employees, your customers, is very similar to the way you manufacture things. And you design a service in pretty much the same way as you design how something's going to be made. Oh, a lot of people follow me on Twitter. The final thing is cost, or sacrifice, as I referred to it earlier. And here we're not just talking about price and how much, we're talking about the sustainability, we're talking about ethics, we're talking about convenience. But probably most of all, we're talking about price. I wish people would stop interrupting with my thing here. Anyway, so it all boils down to things which are subconsciously driven by the inner animal brain and things which are need-driven, consciously driven, which are driven by the outer sapient brain. Oh, goodness me. Now I'm going to talk to you about what I've been doing for the last 3 years, which is designing actually over 300 products. 200 of them have been shipping. They're homewares. And I have tried to build in all my experience and thought into making these products functionally innovative, using anodized aluminium finishes and making them satisfying to use, but most of all, making them do the job better. And principally, deplastification. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's an awful lot of coloured plastic out there, which is fine if you want it. But what I like the idea of is having things which I'll buy in a flea market in 30 years' time. And, if the Romans were using plastic, we would never have that little pot which says Felix Fecit written underneath it. But so that is something that I've been doing. I've been running the whole program myself. It's design and supply is the model we call it when we're visiting to retailers. We're now distributing in over 40 countries around the world. And the thing is that, it may be made in China or Portugal or wherever, but every time an item is sold, 10% of the value of that item comes into the UK. In the same way that when Apple make things in China, a percentage of the value, probably larger than 10%, goes into the USA. So that's the model I'm trying to follow. And I see that the role of design is to make good ideas into successful ideas. And to do this, we have a sort of route map. We call it the innovation journey. And here's a very simplified version of how it goes. Now, please note that the design bit is that little bit in the middle there. But in order to work, the designer has to be involved in every aspect of it. I'm going to show it to you in a more complicated way. This is what we call the merchandise development process. And we have 3 key stakeholders here. We've got the people who are going to have to sell it, the people who are going to have to make it, and the people who are going to have to create it, and that's us. So I'm not going to go through in lots of glorious detail here, but it's a bit dry, but it shows you, here's the creative design process and how all this works, and then we get on to the implementation process, and then we finally get into production. And I see it's very important for the designer to get involved in the production phase, and not just in getting it made, but actually in helping it being marketed. And I think that the future for design is to get far, far more involved in creating design-led brands, and the designers getting in front of the consumers to show them what is so special about their products. This is the most important slide that I'm going to show you today, and it shows the different levels that I've shown you. It shows you the principal stakeholders during the different stages. The point is, all the stakeholders are involved in every stage of the process. And where design goes wrong is when, you leave out manufacturing until, say, the implementation process. You know, the designer comes along, I've designed this great thing, we've created this great thing with this marketing department, here, go and make it. Or the marketing people aren't involved in the implementation stage. There's two reasons for this, is that A, everyone understands what everyone else is doing, and the other reason is good ideas come from everywhere. It's not just designers that have ideas, it's marketing people, it's manufacturing people, it's people that make the tea, it's everyone in the studio that gets involved in the manufacturing process. So when we have brainstorms, we involve everyone in the studio, we involve the clients, and we involve the intended manufacturers, and we have just, a few words that we try and stick to. We want all our products to be original, inspirational, aspirational, so people want them, accessible, so they can afford them, and desirable, because people have to want them. So I'm very hands-on with the whole design team, and it's very much a pencil and paper process. It's not finger and mouse and keyboard process, though we do have to do that. And we make a lot of models. We don't make final models. We make what we call development models or development prototypes, because it's this process of making lots of little things. It's amazing how much you learn from screwing bits of MDF together. And apart from the fact that MDF is not very strong. Another thing that's happened is that now we can photograph everything. We've got our own in-house photo studio. Practically everyone knows how to use it. It's the best 7,000 quid I ever spent, because you can create great photographs, put them on your packaging, and in the old days, you had to send photographs off to a photographer where they get lost, broken, stolen, and you had to have multiple as everything. But this way, we can send really good quality videos and pictures to our suppliers all over the world. We can create our own packaging in-house, and this is quite important for us. The other thing that's very important is to run good PR, is to create a brand, I'm not doing this because I want to be famous for the sake of being famous. I need to be famous in order for people will buy the product. And this involves using social media, and I've just completed 50 little videos like this, so that people can point their phone at a QR code on the packet and see how the product is used. When they go onto a website, they can see a little video of how something can do it. And this is really important for the distributors across the world. I would show something to, say, a Japanese distributor, and he'd say, that's fantastic. But how are we going to demonstrate this to the customers? And this is our answer. The other thing that's important is to... how much have I got? Oh, yeah, I've got time for this. We created a stand. We only had £5,000 budget to build this stand. We spent 800 quid on the light, the neon, and I discovered that if you buy a scaffolding board at the end of the summer, it's about a fifth of the price at the beginning of the summer. So we actually came in 1,200 quid under budget, which, you see, not all designers go over budget. Anyway, here, I hope I'm going to show you a team-building effort. And these are the designers outside the studio. This is a bit of a joke, a bit of a light thing. But we put up a little time-lapse camera in the corner there, and you can see this is my entire design team putting it all together. And I didn't realise what a wonderful effect it was going to have on our morale to produce... I'm texting there, not picking my nose. To do this and to set up a stand, but also for the designers to actually man the stand and to see how people are reacting to the products that they have designed. And it gives... It's very cohesive, and it's a very successful and enjoyable process. There's a great one where someone puts something up and I take it down, but that's it. Anyway, so there we are. Do you want me to carry on? I can do another 5 minutes. Do you want me to carry on? All right, okay. All right, thanks. Anyway, so I was passing a church and I saw this sign outside the church and it said, let's talk about the F word. So I knew this was meant to be provocative and I was thinking, is that forgiveness? Is it faith or whatever it is? And I was down the pub with a friend of mine who's an architect, and we were discussing this, and he said, you know about the 3 F's of architecture? And I said, form follows function. And he said, no. Form follows future. Is it environmentally sustainable? No. Form follows fabrication. How easy is it to make? No. Oh, Twitter again. Sorry. Form follows finish. What is the, where is it going to be used? How important is the finish? You know, this laptop is designed around the finish. Form follows failure. Is it evolutionary better? Because it's not survival of the fittest. It's the dwindling of the least fit. Form follows feelings. How do people emotionally connect with the product that I'm designing? Form follows fantasy. Does it fulfill people's dreams? How does it, work on people's imagination and vision? Form follows fun. Is it playful? Does it give you a smile in the mind? Form follows fingers. Is it ergonomically sound? How big shall I make this phone so I can use it with one hand? Form follows fame. Does it reinforce the brand? Form follows fashion. Is it what people want at the time? Josiah Wedgwood made this brilliant remark, which was that fashion is far more significant than merit. I mean, it's the last thing you'd expect Josiah Wedgwood ever to say, but he's quite right. If you haven't got what people want at the time they want it, you're stuffed. Form follows feedback. One needs to do focus groups, one needs to listen to one's customer, one needs to do user studies and look at the user experience. Form follows freight. How big is it? Why people make things in China now is because it's a lot cheaper to ship them. But also, when you're looking at the packaging, when you're looking at the price of a product, it is unfeasible to make sofas in China because once you've filled a container full of sofas, actually you can't sell them for a decent price. Form follows face. You need to have real commitment to succeed. Apple, if they didn't have complete faith in people like Johnny Ives, and if Steve Jobs didn't have faith in himself, which is really important. If you don't have faith in yourself, you can't make intangible decisions. And often it's the intangible decisions that are important. But when you get round the table to discuss the design of something, people will only talk about the tangible issues. Form follows finance. Is it affordable to make and tool up? And will people pay that much? Form follows fanaticism. The devilish design in every detail. I mean, Apple, again, I'm sorry to use them as an excuse, but they are the sort of benchmark of contemporary design. Form follows fandango because simplicity, I believe elegance lies in simplicity, and that, as Leonardo said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, but it is incredibly difficult to achieve. And form follows frustration because it's the mother F of invention. So anyway, the architect said, no, it's none of those. It's finish it, photograph it, and F off. So, goodbye. Is that all right?
Ladies and gentlemen, have you got any questions for Sebastian? I'm sure you have.
Could I ask a question about the designer in residence at...
Up there. Sorry.
That's all right.
Oh.
The designer in residence project at the university, and if you could talk us through that, how that's working, what you're doing, that would be really useful.
It's design in residence at Sheffield University Science and Engineering faculty, which is terrific because that's really what I wanted to do when I began life. It works well, I think, because I'm able to talk to researchers about what they're doing and to be able to help them visualise what their products would look like. I couldn't show you a lot of the things there, but, if you've got an idea and it looks a bit clumsy or something, I can help by visualising it. That's on the most simplest scale, but also I think of things in a marketing and entrepreneurial context. So a researcher may be discussing one aspect of what they're doing, and I can say, but we could use this, and you could work with this because, rather than trying to build a humanoid robot that doesn't really do much, build a table that has sort of semi-magic qualities to it. Also introduce experience that I've had in security, and I've worked with the Home Office for quite a long time in the Design Technology Alliance. So there are, get back to your question, there's 5 basic streams. There's design for the elderly, there's utilising rapid prototyping, there's advanced additive manufacturing, there is working on robotics, there's working on security, and then there's work on sustainability. And those are the 5 basic streams that I've been working with them on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. Rick?
David, are you all right to go on? Well, can I just encourage you to join in enthusiastic applause again for Sebastian Conran? That was the most riveting and enlightening talk.